Welcome to the Conspiracy Files with Paige Carter. I'm your host, Paige Carter. Imagine a world where punishment becomes a business, where every prison cell filled equates to dollars in someone's pocket. This is not a dystopian novel's plot, but a startling reality that has quietly woven itself into the fabric of America's justice system. We're talking about an industry that thrives on the incarceration of individuals, a system where profit supersedes justice, the prison industrial complex. As the sun sets and night falls, a sobering fact lurks in the shadows. The United States, a nation that holds only 5% of the world's population, accounts for a staggering 25% of its prisoners. What's more, this country's prison population has increased by an astounding 700% since the 1970s. But why? Is it an escalation in crime rates? Or is there something more sinister at play? In the land of the free, a vast network exists where corporations, private prison companies, and even some government entities profit from the incarceration of individuals. A network that thrives on an endless supply of prisoners. A network known as the prison industrial complex. This term, coined in the late 90s, paints a chilling picture of an industry that profits from the revolving doors of America's prisons. Now, what does this mean for justice? When profit is derived from incarceration, does it not incentivize a higher prison population? And if so, does justice then take a back seat to the pursuit of profit? These are the questions we must grapple with as we delve deeper into this enigmatic web. Consider the story of the state of Louisiana, a state with the highest incarceration rate not only in America but in the world. Here, local sheriffs receive a daily stipend for each prisoner they house. Now, this may seem like a way to compensate for the cost of incarceration, but it has led to a perverse incentive to keep prisons full, and full they remain. As of 2018, Louisiana's prisons housed 38,000 inmates, a number higher than the total population of some of its towns. In a system where more prisoners mean more profit, it's worth asking, is justice being served, or is it being sold to the highest bidder? Then, there's the billion-dollar industry of prison labor, where inmates manufacture goods and provide services at severely reduced wages. This practice, while argued by some as a form of rehabilitation, has drawn comparisons to modern-day slavery. Unveiling the complex layers of the prison industrial complex is a journey that will take us through the corridors of power, hidden contracts, and the lives of those caught within its grasp. It's a journey that might leave us with more questions than answers. But it's a journey we need to take, for in the shadows of the unknown lie the truths we must uncover. The question remains, in the American justice system, is it truly justice that's being served, or is it profit? To understand the genesis of the prison industrial complex, we need to travel back to a tumultuous period in American history, the late 1970s. The economic downturn had left the country grappling with high unemployment rates and rising crime. It was in this milieu that the political discourse began to shift in favor of a tough-on-crime approach. The 1980s saw a surge in legislation that aimed to crack down on crime, most notably the war on drugs. These policies led to an unprecedented increase in the prison population, creating a demand for more prisons, and where there was demand, supply wasn't far behind. The first privately operated prison opened its doors in 1984 in Tennessee, marking the beginning of a lucrative industry that linked profit with punishment. The rationale behind privatizing prisons was ostensibly economic efficiency. However, the reality that unfolded was far from the promise. The rise of private prisons coincided with a climate of fear and secrecy. The very idea of profiting from punishment was controversial and sparked intense debate. Despite this, the industry continued to expand, often under the radar, thanks to complex and opaque contracts that kept much of its operations shrouded in secrecy. This era of mass incarceration also unfolded against a backdrop of political maneuvering. Powerful lobby groups representing private prison corporations wielded considerable influence over policy decisions, often pushing for harsher sentencing laws and longer jail terms. The aim? More prisoners, more prisons, more profit. Meanwhile, the United States began to witness a disturbing trend. A disproportionate number of those incarcerated were people of color, particularly African Americans and Latinos. The war on drugs, with its focus on urban, low-income communities, had a disparate impact on minority populations. This systemic bias further fueled the growth of the prison industrial complex, perpetuating a cycle of poverty, crime, and incarceration. The fusion of punishment and profit has raised a slew of ethical and moral questions, and yet the wheels of the prison industrial complex continue to turn, propelled by a potent mix of profit, politics, and policy. What began as a response to a crime wave has morphed into a billion-dollar industry that some argue has lost sight of its primary purpose: justice. As we delve further into this complex narrative, we must keep probing, keep questioning. In the tension between profit and justice, where does the balance lie? And more importantly, whose interests are truly being served? At the heart of the prison industrial complex are key figures and organizations that have played major roles in its inception and proliferation. Among these are the two largest private prison companies in the United States: the GEO Group and CoreCivic, formerly known as Corrections Corporation of America. These corporations have been instrumental in shaping the industry, often through aggressive lobbying for policies favorable to their interests. The GEO Group, a Florida-based company, and CoreCivic, headquartered in Tennessee, together operate more than half of the private prisons in the United States. Beyond mere incarceration, their services have expanded into areas such as electronic monitoring, re-entry programs, and even immigration detention centers. But their primary business model remains the same. They are paid by the government per prisoner per day. In this way, their profit margins are directly linked with the number of people behind bars. These corporations have been known to invest heavily in lobbying activities. They have made significant campaign contributions to politicians, often those who support policies leading to higher rates of incarceration. This has been evident in their support for legislation, like the controversial 3 strikes laws, which mandate life sentences for individuals convicted of a serious violent felony and 2 or more previous convictions. Amid this corporate landscape, there are other influential players. The American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, a conservative nonprofit organization, has been a powerful force in shaping public policy. ALEC, which counts private prison companies among its corporate members, has been linked with the drafting of bills that increase prison sentences and criminalize certain behaviors, thereby increasing the prison population. Moreover, there are numerous ancillary businesses that profit from the system, from companies that provide healthcare and food services in prisons to those that profit from prison labor. Inmate labor has been leveraged by corporations, including some household names, reaping benefits from the cheap labor provided by prisoners. These key players, with their interlocking interests, form a powerful network that perpetuates the prison industrial complex. Their motives often intertwine, driven by the desire for profit, political influence, and control. However, as we delve deeper into this intricate web, we must question the implications of a system that monetizes human captivity. As the lines between justice and profit blur, the true cost of the prison industrial complex becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. The public consciousness regarding the prison industrial complex wasn't always as heightened as it is today. The unmasking of this intricate system can be traced back to certain key events, revelations, and individuals who brought its inner workings to light. One such event unfolded in 2015 when investigative journalists of The Nation published a series of exposés on the private prison industry. They revealed horrific conditions within these facilities, including overcrowding, negligent health care, and excessive use of solitary confinement. The articles sparked outrage among the public and contributed to a growing skepticism towards the private prison industry. Meanwhile, the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, has been advocating against the prison industrial complex for years. They have consistently raised awareness about the unfair profit motives of private prisons and their detrimental impact on the incarcerated population. In 2016, a significant leak unfolded as the U.S. Department of Justice announced its plans to end the use of private prisons. This decision came in the wake of a report by the Office of the Inspector General, which found that private prisons were more dangerous and less effective than their federally operated counterparts. The news was seen as a potential blow to the private prison industry, but their influence in immigration detention centers and state prisons remained largely unaffected. In the same year, Ava DuVernay's documentary, 13th, was released. The film, named after the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, explores the intersection of race, justice, and mass incarceration in America. DuVernay argues that while the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, it left a loophole that has been exploited to perpetuate a system of forced labor through mass incarceration. Through these and other revealing instances, the public has become increasingly aware of the prison industrial complex. The transparency brought about by investigative reporting, legal disclosures, and thought-provoking media has been instrumental in exposing the blurred lines between justice and profit. However, while these revelations have brought the prison industrial complex into the public eye, they also point towards a deeper, more systemic issue. They suggest that the prison industrial complex is not a simple byproduct of criminal justice, but a deliberate and self-sustaining system that thrives on the monetization of human captivity. As we further explore this system, we must confront the disturbing implications of a justice system entangled with profit-driven motives. It is vital to consider the alleged efforts of suppression and control that have contributed to the continued existence and growth of the prison industrial complex. These range from the covert tactics employed by corporations and institutions to the more overt measures taken by governments. Private prison corporations are known for their aggressive lobbying strategies and campaign contributions, often targeting lawmakers who could help further their business interests. This approach, while not illegal, does raise ethical questions about the influence of money on policymaking, particularly in an area as sensitive as criminal justice. The American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, for instance, is a controversial organization that connects legislators with corporate representatives to draft model legislation. It has been accused of facilitating the passage of laws beneficial to private prisons, such as the 3 Strikes Law and Truth in Sentencing laws, both of which have contributed significantly to increased incarceration rates. Furthermore, there have been numerous allegations of corporations and institutions suppressing information or manipulating narratives to maintain support for the prison industrial complex. For instance, evidence suggests a pattern of private prison companies downplaying or outright denying the existence of problems within their facilities. Investigations into prison conditions often uncover a stark contrast between the official narrative and the lived experiences of inmates. Reports of inadequate health care, violence, and insufficient training for staff are recurrent themes. Yet, these reports are often met with staunch denial or dismissal from those profiting from the system, perpetuating a cycle of neglect and abuse. Government entities, too, have been accused of obfuscating the realities of the prison industrial complex. Critics argue that an emphasis on crime rates and a narrative of public safety are used to justify the expansion of a system that profits from mass incarceration. In some instances, whistleblowers and advocates who attempt to expose these realities face retaliation. This includes prison employees who are silenced or penalized for speaking out about the conditions within the facilities they work, and journalists who face barriers in accessing information or conducting investigations into these institutions. These suppression efforts, combined with the influence of profit motives on policymaking, contribute to a system that often prioritizes financial gains over justice. They serve to maintain the status quo, obscuring the true cost of the prison industrial complex from public view and stifling efforts to instigate meaningful reform. Ultimately, it raises the question of what it means to have a justice system where the scales are tipped not by the pursuit of justice, but by the pursuit of profit. Perhaps one of the most well-known whistleblowers in this context is Shane Bauer, an investigative journalist who went undercover as a prison guard to expose the harsh realities of private prisons. Bauer worked at a Louisiana prison run by Corrections Corporation of America, now known as CoreCivic, one of the largest private prison corporations in the United States. His experiences, documented in his book American Prison, revealed a disturbing glimpse into the world of private prisons, detailing poor working conditions, inadequate training, and a culture of violence and neglect. However, Bauer's journey to expose the truth was fraught with risk and consequences. He faced potential legal repercussions and personal danger, as private prisons are known to be notoriously secretive and protective of their operations. If discovered, he risked facing retaliation from both the corporation and the inmates whose trust he had to gain. Another case worth noting is that of Robert Rosso, a long-term prisoner and a freelance journalist who has written extensively about the prison industrial complex from the inside. Rosso has faced numerous instances of retaliation for his work, including solitary confinement and seizure of his journalistic materials. Then there's the case of James Kilgore, a former prisoner turned researcher and activist. He has faced backlash from the political right for his advocacy against mass incarceration and his research on the prison industrial complex. His position as a research scholar at the University of Illinois was threatened due to public outcry over his past as a former fugitive involved in revolutionary activism. In the face of such retaliation and risk, these whistleblowers and activists have demonstrated immense courage. They have dared to lift the veil on a system that thrives in the shadows, revealing its true nature to the public. Their stories serve as a testament to the lengths that those profiting from the prison industrial complex will go to suppress the truth, and the lengths that those seeking justice will go to expose it. Yet, the struggle continues. The prison industrial complex is a behemoth entrenched in our society and our economy. It is a system that has proven remarkably resistant to change, one that requires continuous scrutiny and a steadfast commitment to justice to ensure that profit does not continue to outweigh the pursuit of fairness and human dignity. Declassified files, testimonies, and data reveal a deeply ingrained system revolving around profit. One such piece of evidence is the federal lawsuit filed in 2015 against Global Tellink, a company providing telephone services to inmates. The plaintiffs alleged that the company was charging exorbitantly high rates, some as much as $1 per minute, for phone calls. This profiteering off of those incarcerated and their families is a vivid example of how the prison industrial complex places profit over justice. There's also the testimony of Paul Wright, a former prisoner and the founder of the Prison Legal News. He has documented instances of private prison companies lobbying for laws that would increase incarceration rates and lengthen sentences, thus ensuring a steady stream of revenue. In 2011, the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, released a report titled Banking on Bondage, Private Prisons, and Mass Incarceration. The report revealed that between 1990 and 2009, the number of inmates held in private prisons increased by 1,600%. This growth was driven, in part, by the lobbying efforts of private prison companies. The ACLU report underscored the perverse incentives within the prison industrial complex, a system that profits from increased incarceration and longer sentences, rather than focusing on rehabilitation and reducing recidivism. In 2013, the University of Wisconsin-Madison released a study showing that private prisons were more likely to issue infractions to inmates, thus extending their sentences. Private prisons, the study found, have a vested interest in keeping prisoners incarcerated for longer periods, which contradicts the very essence of a justice system that should be aimed at rehabilitation and reintegration. An investigative report by The Guardian in 2016 exposed the use of inmate labor by private companies, with prisoners earning pennies per hour while the companies reaped the benefits. This modern-day equivalent of slave labor highlights the exploitative nature of the prison industrial complex, where human beings are reduced to mere commodities in the pursuit of profit. These revelations are a stark reminder of the urgent need for reform. The prison industrial complex, as it stands, places profit over people and justice. It commodifies human lives, perpetuates a cycle of incarceration, and undermines the very concept of rehabilitation and reintegration. As a society, the challenge is to dismantle this system and replace it with one that truly serves justice, not just the bottom line. The public reaction to these revelations has been a mix of shock, anger, and calls for change. The media coverage has intensified, with news outlets across the spectrum focusing on the prison industrial complex and its impact on society. The narrative of prisons as profit-making machines, rather than institutions of rehabilitation and justice, has sparked widespread debate, prompting questions about the ethics of profiting from incarceration. The ACLU report, alongside other investigations, has fueled a wave of public outcry. This has manifested in the form of protests, petitions, and pressure on politicians to address the issue. The hashtag #EndPrisonProfiteering trended on social media platforms, becoming a rallying cry for those demanding change. Despite the public backlash, those who benefit from the prison industrial complex have adamantly defended their position. Private prison companies, for instance, have often countered accusations by arguing that they provide a necessary service in an overburdened, under-resourced public prison system. They claim that their facilities are more efficient and cost-effective, contributing to the overall functioning of the criminal justice system. However, these defense statements are frequently met with skepticism, especially in light of the evidence suggesting that private prisons often fail to deliver on their promises of efficiency and cost savings, instead focusing on profit maximization. Critics argue that this profit-driven approach directly contradicts the goal of reducing recidivism and rehabilitating inmates. Trust in the criminal justice system has suffered as a result of these revelations. The perception of justice being subverted by profit has led many to question the fundamental fairness of the system. The prison industrial complex has become a symbol of a system that many see as stacked against the poor and marginalized, who are disproportionately represented in the prison population. Controversies have also emerged around the use of inmate labor. Companies that have utilized prisoner labor have faced consumer boycotts and public shaming campaigns. Some, in response, have severed their ties with prisons, while others continue to defend their practices, arguing that prison labor provides inmates with useful skills and a sense of purpose. Yet such arguments often fail to address the exploitative pay rates and the coercive environment in which this labor occurs. The prison industrial complex, as it exists today, has therefore become a flashpoint in public debates about justice, ethics, and the role of profit in society. It has exposed deep-seated issues and has prompted demands for a reformed system that prioritizes rehabilitation over profit. The public's eyes are now wide open to a reality that was once shrouded in secrecy, a system that too often places profit over justice. The legacy of the prison industrial complex is deeply embedded in the fabric of modern society, shaping cultural perspectives, political agendas, and technological advancements. Its influence is pervasive, touching every aspect of life, from entertainment to policymaking, and even the development of technology. In popular culture, the prison system has been a central theme in films, music, books, and television series, shaping public perception and understanding of incarceration. These portrayals often perpetuate stereotypes and misconceptions. They can reinforce the belief that prisons primarily house dangerous, violent criminals, distracting from the reality of a system that disproportionately incarcerates the marginalized for minor offenses, often driven by the profit-making motives of the prison industrial complex. In the political arena, the prison industrial complex continues to wield significant influence. It has been linked to the creation and enforcement of harsher sentencing laws, such as mandatory minimums and three-strikes rules, which contribute to the overpopulation of prisons. Many attribute the persistence of these policies, despite evidence of their ineffectiveness in reducing crime, to the lobbying power of private prison companies and other stakeholders in the prison industrial complex. In the realm of technology, the prison industrial complex has spurred innovation, but not necessarily in ways that serve justice or rehabilitation. Surveillance technology, such as electronic monitoring devices, has become a lucrative industry. While touted as alternatives to incarceration, these technologies often serve to extend the reach of the prison industrial complex, turning entire communities into extensions of the prison environment. The lessons that emerge from this examination of the prison industrial complex are numerous and multifaceted. It underscores the need for vigilance against the erosion of justice by profit-driven motives. It highlights the importance of scrutinizing the narratives that shape public understanding of the prison system. It also serves as a powerful reminder of the influence that economic interests can exert on policy and technology. Yet, amid these grim realities, there is also a glimmer of hope. The growing awareness of the prison industrial complex has sparked movements advocating for prison reform and abolition. It has given rise to critical discussions about the role of profit in the justice system. It has prompted calls for a shift in focus from punishment to rehabilitation, from exclusion to reintegration. The prison industrial complex, in its legacy and continuing influence, offers a stark reminder of the potential for profit to corrupt justice. But it also stands as a testament to the power of informed public discourse to challenge and reform oppressive systems. The journey through the labyrinth of the prison industrial complex has left us with more questions than answers, elucidating the intricate relationship between profit and justice. As we stand at the end of our exploration, the towering edifice of the prison industrial complex continues to cast a long shadow, its inner workings shrouded in secrecy and ambiguity. The prison industrial complex, with its vast reach and undeniable influence, is not merely a machine, it is a mirror held up to society. It reflects our values, our fears, our prejudices. It unveils the price we are willing to pay, sometimes unwittingly, for a sense of security, a promise of justice. But at what cost? And for whose benefit? This exploration reveals a complex web of economic and political interests that converge at the intersection of punishment and profit. It exposes the ways in which the gears of the prison industrial complex are greased by the engine of capitalism. Yet, the complexities of this system, the full extent of its impact, and the motivations of those who uphold it remain obscured, hidden behind walls of secrecy and silence. The prison industrial complex, in its murkiness, poses a challenge to the ideals of justice and fairness. It prompts us to question the true nature of punishment, the role of profit in a system designed to administer justice, and the societal implications of a punitive system that is increasingly commercialized. The questions raised by the prison industrial complex are not just about prisons, or even justice. They are about us, as a society. They force us to confront our collective conscience, to question our priorities, our values. They challenge us to imagine alternatives, to envision a future where justice is not overshadowed by profit, where punishment serves as a pathway to rehabilitation, not a conduit to further marginalization. As we sift through the pieces of this complex puzzle, the prison industrial complex remains an enigma, a paradox of justice and profit, of punishment and rehabilitation, of transparency and secrecy. It is a reminder of the power of hidden forces, of the ripple effects of our choices, of the resilience of structures built on profit and power. The prison industrial complex is a story that is still being written, its ending uncertain. As the narrative unfolds, the hope for change flickers in the darkness, illuminating the path towards justice. Yet the mystery lingers, the doubt persists. It is this uncertainty, this sense of unease, that keeps the story of the prison industrial complex alive, its secrets waiting to be unveiled, its truths waiting to be told. Thanks for listening. This has been the Conspiracy Files with Paige Carter. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like to support the show, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Subscribe now.